Hey folks, welcome to another episode of 5 to 15 with Musickers. I'm your host, Jason DeCristofaro, and I'm here with a true polymath, a Renaissance woman. She is a pianist, vocalist, bandleader, composer, arranger, and educator, Iliana Rose. Iliana, so great to be with you.
What did you call me?
A polymath.
Wow.
So that's a fancy word for somebody who wears a lot of different hats.
I've never been called that before.
Add that to your resume, right?
Okay, I will.
Put in quotes. Jason says polymath. But we play a lot together. It's always a fun time. You have a lot of different projects. And I guess what I want to talk about today is your experience as a performer and a band leader, but also some other aspects, including your work as an arranger and composer, and how you've built a career around that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess let's just talk a little bit about what you do week to week. What does a typical week for Iliana Rose look like?
It is a lot of different hats. So not only do I have my own band where I get to play whatever I want to play, but one of the things that really generates a lot of income is playing in other people's bands. And it could be straight ahead jazz or opera. You know, I'm the musical director for an opera singer, or it's a funk band, R&B band that I'm in now. Or a salsa band. It could be any one of those things. And I found early on in my performing career that the more versatile that you are, the more likely to generate gigs, because people, you know, they would call me and say, can you do an Italian themed night? Of course I couldn't, but I'd say, of course, yeah. What do you want? How much time do you want? And then I go on Google. What does it pay?
Yeah, right.
I go on Google, okay, top 15, 20 songs from Italy, standards, and then you do the work, you know, just like actors when they say, can you ride a horse? Yes. And then you get the gig, and then you learn how to ride a horse. So always say yes, because there's nothing more fun than like just going for a challenge and then getting to the other side of it. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, now I can do a 90-minute Italian themed night.
You have that in your bag.
I do.
Well, but you also have to have the skills to be able to do that. I mean, you went to school for music, and this is something I didn't realize until recently. You're a fantastic pianist. That's primarily the instrument you're known for, but that wasn't the instrument you majored on in college.
Not at all, no. I was a double performance major, so I played the classical clarinet. That's what my scholarship was on. But I was also a studio music and jazz vocal major.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd go from playing, Beethoven and then go sing in the a cappella doo-wop group. It was like, it was a little crazy. But it was a really wonderfully rounded education.
Do you feel that it prepared you for exactly what we're talking about? Like, can you do this style of music you've never played, and you can go and do the research?
Absolutely. And I was a band leader really early on. You know, I was in high school, and I put a band together, and just being in charge of other people. That is a whole nother skill set.
Yep. Especially musicians.
Yeah, be other musicians. It's like herding cats. You have to really be organized and prompt and be good on the phone, and so all of these little hats that you wear gives you a new set of skills that then you could apply and be successful as a musician, as an educator, as all those wonderful things you called me.
Well, and it's funny because we played a lot, and one of the things I always appreciate about working with you is you have like very clean, precise, concise, accurate charts, right? So I know we've done gigs, we've played a lot of gigs, but I know sometimes you'll get like a trombonist or a trumpet or whoever, maybe somebody you've never played with. Every note on the page you've written as an arranger is like spot on, and there's like a lot of information, good details. So I always feel very confident as a musician when I'm in a band, I'm like, Iliana's got it covered, we're in good hands. What are some things you've learned as an arranger, and not just in this sort of abstract academic sense, because I think there are students in music school, conservatory, et cetera, who learn how to arrange and they take classes, but there's a whole music business, music industry side of arranging. What are some of the things that you learned about arranging, I guess first in school and your formal training, and then outside of school, sort of just in the gigging world.
Yeah. So in school, I got a couple of arranging classes that were part of the requirement for the jazz majors. And there you learn the techniques.
Yep.
And you basically arrange 2 songs for a couple semesters, and that's it. Most of my arranging came by things that I learned by accident.
Yeah.
or the best tool, and I know a lot of musicians will say this, is transcribing.
Yep.
You transcribe and you see, or you look at scores and you see how other people do it, and you go, oh, that's an interesting thing, the way they voiced that chord. But you could have like killer harmonies and alterations, but if it's hard to read, it's not gonna sound good. So one of the things that I do is I make sure that the page looks pretty.
It's true, it does. Aesthetically, it's very easy to read.
So you don't have the dynamic markings bumping into an accent, or the crescendo covering up something below the staff. Like, it needs to be easy to read.
Yeah.
Because I do play in other bands, I get a lot of other people's charts. And I always find myself just redoing them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I can't play to my full potential, because I'm struggling to, you get seven measures on one staff, and then 1 bar down here, and it's like, why?
Oh, I hate that.
Why did they do that? And I always complain about it to my husband. He's like, what's new? Nobody can do the charts the way you do the charts. I know, but it's like, it should be easy to read. It shouldn't be an obstacle.
Right. Well, I guess editing is a big part of that. So I guess in your time, because there's a process to arranging, so you're preparing an arrangement for a particular performance you have coming up, you have X number of musicians on whatever instruments.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that process, because I think a lot of times when people hear an arrangement, they're just hearing the tip of the iceberg. They're hearing that finished product. But can you tell us a little bit about your process and sort of the steps as you go through the process of arranging for a band that you have a performance coming up with?
Well, when I'm doing an arrangement, I like to do a lot of research. So let's say I want to do an arrangement of Caravan. I will, a couple weeks before I'm actually going to get started, I have to get into the right headspace.
Right.
So I will listen to every possible version of Caravan.
Yeah.
And go, oh, I like what they did on that intro, and I like the tempo that they did there, and I like that they swung this here, and I like that alternative turnaround or whatever. And I'll just kind of jot it down or let it swim in my mind. And then all of a sudden, and it's usually while I'm playing with my chickens or gardening or something, the beginning will hit me or the end will hit me.
Interesting. Yeah.
Or something in the middle of like, oh, that would be so cool if the trombone did that. And that's when I start to write it into the computer.
So as a fellow composer, arranger, this happens to me too, where I'm like, inspiration strikes at the worst time. It's not when I'm in front of the manuscript paper at the piano, it's like feeding chickens, right? Yeah. So what do you do when that happens? You just try to hold on to it, or do you have...
The voice memo. I mean, we have technology. I sing it into my phone, or I stop what I'm doing and I run to the computer, but I mostly just sing it into my phone.
Yeah. And
try not to lose that. So I just kind of repeat it, and let it like soak and marinate. It's somewhere in my being, in my head, and then just start writing. I also learned that I don't have to start at the beginning. And if I can't figure out the bridge, that's okay, move on. Like if the coda is coming to me and not the bridge, then work on the coda.
You can even work backwards or just start
backwards, forward, it doesn't matter. It's like when you're putting together puzzle pieces, just little pieces here or there, and there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
And we're so fortunate that we could press play and like hear it back.
Yeah.
Right. And go,
all the software. Yeah.
Oh my God! Thank God for that.
Absolutely.
The old timers had to do all of the hearing in their own mind, which is incredible.
It is.
But we're really lucky that I could hear the dynamic, I could hear an articulation and go, that's not what I want. I don't want a carrot top.
Right.
Like I just want a staccato. I don't want it to have a fat accent. I want this and to just let it match.
Those nuances. Yeah.
That is so important. I hate getting charts that don't give you like dynamics or
Yeah.
articulations.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want, you know?
Right.
You're the arranger, you're the composer. Like, give me, I mean, it's not just a lead sheet. You want me to
Right.
do whatever I want? Give me a lead sheet.
Yeah, right.
I'll go to town with it. But if it's like a specific arrangement, tell me where to go.
Right. Having more direction allows you to be more musical and work
Yes.
with the composer or arranger's intentions.
Yeah. One of the things that really helps, I don't know how long we're gonna go on this interview, but one of the things that really helps is to be able to play most of the instruments, even at a really beginning band level.
And you have that background because with the clarinet experience, it's not brass per se, but you have at least a concept of what woodwind players and
Right.
brass players do. Piano, which is very much a percussion instrument and a string instrument.
Yeah.
So you're thinking as a rhythm section player, but also harmonically,
Uh-huh.
melodically. And then as a vocalist, there's that whole
Right.
other element there too. There's so many things we could talk about. We have limited time, unfortunately. We'll have to do another interview at some point.
All right.
But one of the things I'm curious to learn about is sort of just the logistics, right? Because you do wear so many different hats and you travel throughout the region, you perform in so many different settings. What do you do for you, Iliana, personally, to balance everything and sort of keep everything in line? Because you are doing the thing, you're like a model of a professional musician. How do you manage all that? How do you coordinate all that?
Just really good time management. Because I was a double major in college, I had every 15-minute block scheduled.
Yeah.
Like, from this time to this time, I'm gonna eat. From this time to this time, I'm gonna shower. It was the only way to graduate in 4 years and not go over.
Right.
So I developed that skill of like, okay, today I do have a lot of to-do lists.
Yeah.
And my long-term list versus my short-term list versus my today list.
Yeah.
And then there's the shopping list and the Home Depot list. So I have a lot of lists, and it's very satisfying to just like cross things off the list.
It is. I know that feeling. Yeah.
But time management is really important. Otherwise, I could just like sit on my behind and watch Netflix all day.
Yeah, that's fun too.
It is.
But what you do is incredible, and thank you so much for being with us. How can folks learn more about you and your music and the different projects that you have going on?
Yeah, I've got a website, ilianarose.com, and I try to, that's another thing you have to do as a musician, is you have to be a webmaster.
Yep, that's very true.
So I try to keep everything up to date on there as much as possible, but I'll list where I'm playing, who I'm playing with, what projects I'm working on, and I hope to see you at a show.
Wonderful. Iliana, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jason.
Always a pleasure.
Ditto, man.
Have a good one, y'all.